conscious for what is good and true. Oh la,
Conscious
please
moves.
help me.
Conscience.
Conscious moves. Conscious moves.
Conscious moves them to do good, and conscious moves them to think truly. The good they do is a good associated associated
Yeah.
with
Charity.
charity. And the truth they think is a truth embraced by faith. People who are not regenerate do not have a conscience. If they do, is it not a conscience that requires them to do what? I finished to read.
Thank you. Requires them to do what is good out of kindness, or to think what is true because they believe it, but to do so out of some form of love for themselves or the material world. They have either a false conscience or a distorted one. Regenerate people feel joy when they do what conscience beats. What is this beats? Maybe bites? Beats. Beats.
Bids.
It's beats.
Bids.
Beats. It's like request. Do what conscience beats and distress when forced to act or think against conscience. With the unregenerate, on the other hand, this is not so. Most do not know what conscience is, much less what obeying conscience or violating it is. They only know how to live by principles that advance their own interests, which gives them joy. Going against these principles creates distress for them. Regenerate people have a new will and a new intellect. The new will and the intellect are their conscience, or rather exist in their conscience, through which the Lord puts new neighborly. It's neighborly. Lord puts neighborly kindness and religious truth to work. People who have not been reborn do not have a will but appetite instead, and are therefore attracted to every kind of evil. They do not have true intellect but shallow logic. What is shallow? Shallow. Like holy, maybe, yeah? No.
Shallow.
Shallow, like empty, small. Superficial.
Superficial.
But shallow logic and therefore sink into every kind of falsity. Regenerate people have heavenly and spiritual life, but unregenerate people have only bodily and worldly life. Any ability the unregenerate have to think about and understand what is good and true derives from the derives. This
Derives.
it's like deduce, extract, derives from the Lord's life force. This force comes by way of the remnant of truth and goodness described earlier, which gives them the capacity to reflect. In regenerate people, the inner self is in charge and the outer self obeys. In people who have not been reborn, the outer self is in charge, while the inner self retires. What is this? Retires.
Retires.
Retires like go away. Retires. Inner self retires and seems to disappear. Regenerate people recognize what the inner self is and what the outer self is, or at least they can recognize if they ponder. Ponder.
Is ponder.
What is this? What it means? Ponder.
Ponder.
Think about it. It's like think about it. Reflect. Yeah, it's like think, consider, ponder.
Ponder.
Ponder. If they ponder, people who are not regenerate have no idea at all what the inner and outer self are. They cannot tell even if they think about it because they have no idea what the goodness and truth of a faith based on kindness is. All this evidence shows what the regenerate person is like and what the unregenerate one is like. That they are as different as summer and winter, or light and darkness. So the regenerate person is a living individual, while the unregenerate one is a dead individual. Few, if any, today know what the inner self and the outer self are. They consider a two selves or be one. They consider the two selves to be one and the same primarily because they believe they do good and think truth on their own. That is one of the effect of a sense of autonomy. The inner self, though, is as distinct from the outer as heaven is from earth when they contemplate the subject. Contemplate, like maybe understand, yeah, what is contemplate?
Contemplate.
It's like
Behold.
think. Yeah, behold.
Ponder.
Ponder, think, reflect. It's like ponder too.
Yeah, similar.
Contemplate the subject. Neither those who are well educated nor those who are untaught conceive of the inner person as anything but the faculty of thought. Since this is internal, they consider the outer person to be the body with its sensory abilities and pleasures, since these are external. But the thinking that they consider part of the inner self is not in fact part of it. The inner self contains nothing but good impulses and true concepts, which are the Lord's, and the intermediate self contains conscience implanted by the Lord. Yet bad people, even the worst of them, have the ability to think, and people devoid of conscience do too. And people devoid of conscience, devoid, what's this? Devoid.
Devoid.
It's like lucky, deprived, lacking, like without conscience. People devoid of conscience to do. Devoid of conscience do too. This leads to the conclusion that a person's faculty of thought belongs to the outer, rather than faculty. Forgot.
Faculty.
It's like ability. The outer rather than the inner self. To see that the body with its sensory abilities and pleasures is not the outer person. Consider the fact that spirits who have no such body as they had while living in the world are still just as much in possession of an outer self. No one can ever see what the inner person and the outer person are without knowing that each of us has a heavenly and spiritual plane corresponding to the heaven of angels, a rational plane corresponding to the heaven of angelic spirits, and the relatively deep sensory plane corresponding to the heaven of spirits. There are three heavens, all of them present inside us, and the distinctions among them are very clear. That is why people with a conscience first find themselves in the heaven of spirits after death, then are raised by the Lord into the heaven of angelic spirits, and finally come into the heaven of angels. This could never happen unless we had the same number of heavens inside us, so that we could relate to those heavens and to conditions in each. These things have made it clear to me what constitutes the inner self and what the outer. Heavenly and spiritual qualities from the inner self, rational thinking forms the intermediate self, and sense impressions, not direct physical sensation, but something derived from it, form the outer self. These are present not only in people on earth but in spirits too. To address the scholars among my readers, the three planes interlate. What is it? Interlate?
Interlate.
Interlate, like interact, connect, correlate. Interlate in the way whole, means and result do. People recognize that no result can ever exist without means, and no means without a goal. Result, means, and goal are as clearly distinguished from one another as the outer, inner, and inmost levels. Strictly speaking, our sensory being, the part of us that thinks on the basis of sense impressions, is the outer person. Strictly speaking, again, our heavenly and spiritual being is the inner self. Our rational being is halfway in between and through it, or through our rational capacity, the inner self communicates with the outer. I realize that few will grasp these concepts for the reason that we live on the surface and base our thinking on superficial things. That is why some people identify with animals and believe that when their own body dies, they will die altogether. After we die, however, we first start to live. Good people in the other world then begin by living a life full of sensory experience. Sensory experience in the world of spirits, that is, in the heaven of spirits. Later, they live a life of deeper sense experience in the heaven of angelic spirits, and finally, they live a life marked by the deepest kind of sensation in the heaven of angels. This last kind of life, angelic life, is the life of the inner self, but almost nothing can be said about it that people will be able to understand. Only degenerate people can see that angelic life is the life of the inner self, and only if they reflect on goodness and truth and on conflict between the inner and outer selves. After all, the life of the inner self is the Lord's life in us, because it is through the inner self that the Lord puts charitable goodness and religious truth to work in our outer self. Anything from the inner self that rises to awareness in our thoughts and feelings is a general impression containing countless elements that come from the inner self. These elements are imperceptible to us until we arrive in the angels' heaven. For a description of their general effects and its nature, see the lesson of experience in section 545. But what has been said here about the inner self is not necessary for salvation, since it exceeds many people's grasp. Simply let them be aware that there is an inner and outer self, and acknowledge and believe that everything good and true comes from the Lord. Mhm. These remarks on the state of a person reborn and on the way the inner self influences the outer self appear at the outset, because this chapter is talking about regenerate people, the mastery that the inner self exerts over the outer, and the obedience of the outer self exerts.
Exerts.
Exerts. Exerts.
Exerts.
Exerts like affect. Manifest. Pressure. Inner self exerts over the outer. In this sense, like pressure, maybe. Render exerts over the outer and the obedience of the outer self. Outset. What is outset?
Outset.
Outset like commencement. It's like beginning. Outset. Genesis 9:1. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, reproduce and multiply and fill the earth. God blessed symbolizes the Lord's presence and favor. Noah and his sons symbolize the ancient Noah and his son symbolizes the Lord's presence and favor. Noah, God bless, symbolizes the Lord's presence and favor. Noah and his son symbolize the ancient church. Reproducing symbolizes the good effects of charity. Multiplying symbolizes the true ideas of faith which now increased. Filling the earth means that they increased in the outer self. God blessed symbolizes the Lord's presence and favor, as can be seen from the symbolism of blessing in the word on its surface.
Surface.
In the word on its surface. Blessing people means enriching them with every earthly personal benefit. Enriching them.
Enriching.
Enriching them with every personal benefit. And this is how the word is interpreted by all who restrict themselves to its surface, meaning Jews of the past and present, for instance, and Christians as well today especially. So they have identified. So they have identified and continue to identify divine blessings with wealth and abundance of every resource and glory for themselves. In a deeper sense, though, blessing people means enriching them with every kind of spiritual and heavenly goodness, as Lord is the only one who grants this kind of blessing or is even capable of granting it. The act of blessing symbolizes the Lord's presence and favor. The Lord's presence and favor carry such a blessing with them. The word presence is used because only in charity is the Lord present, and the subject here is as a regenerate spiritual person who acts out of charity. The Lord is present in each of us, but the further, 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 further,
Further.
further, further, but further, further, further. The further we distance ourselves from neighborly love, the more the Lord's presence is absent. The Lord's presence is absent. Absent. I forgot what is absent.
Absent.
Absent like lack. Absent. So to speak, which is to say, the more remote the Lord is. The word favor is used rather than mercy because
Hello,
of
guys.
some. Hello.
What are you guys reading?
It's a book, Secrets of Heaven by Emmanuel Swedenborg. You can see this book on the screen.
Okay. What is
And
it
if
about?
you want to read too, you can read next section after me.
Oh, no, thank you. I'm just wondering what the topic is about.
And we can discuss about this if you can. The word favor is used rather than mercy because of something I believe is unknown today. People of heavenly character speak not of favor or grace, but of mercy, while those of spiritual character speak not of mercy, but of grace. The reason for the difference is this: heavenly people acknowledge that the human race is sheer filth. Sheer. What is this? Sheer.
Sheer.
Sheer. Like real. Pure.
Bro, why are you
Pure.
reading this? It's
Pure.
basically calling all humans, trash. Is this like a
I'm
Christian book?
learning. Yeah, it's about spiritual meaning of the book of Genesis of the Bible, and I'm learning English from this book. And if I don't know any word, I can translate it from this application I use.
I see. But that's weird, man. Like, why does it say that all people are filth?
Uh, why? What? Sorry, I don't understand. What are
You
you
know,
saying?
do you understand that it now said that heavenly people acknowledge that the human race is sheer filth? Why is it saying that? Or what's going on here?
Actually, it's about mind. It's about matrix and simulation. Actually, it's Swedenborg. Swedenborg is a genius, and he has third highest IQ in history. His IQ is 206, and if you're able to understand and comprehend his books, it means that your IQ is more than 100. It's about wisdom and mind like this. Maybe if you don't understand it, maybe it's because of your intelligence. You cannot
Okay.
understand it because
No, I understand that what is he saying, but why is he saying that?
why? Because his point of view is this: because heavenly people acknowledge that the human race is sheer filth. Filth is like mad, yeah, mad, dirty, anything. Yeah,
Filth.
Yeah, it's
we
like
should understand, but I have no answer because I should understand what it means. That maybe we can understand it later. Sheer filth that in itself it is made of excrement and is hellish. Yeah, of course. Because what is human race? What is the human race? What's the difference between human race and animals race? Like we can say that what's the difference between monkey and people? We can say there are no difference. Yeah, actually, in literal,
There is
in physical
actually.
sense. Yeah, because monkey has a monkey has a head and arms and legs like this, and
Yeah.
eyes and ears too. And people look a person looks like a monkey. But what's the
Uh,
difference?
the difference is
His
that we
point
have
of view.
minds.
Mhm.
We have minds.
Yeah, yeah. They have brain. Monkeys have brain, but they don't have mind. Actually, it's about intelligence. Yeah, because you can say that idiots, for example, idiots are like monkey. Yeah, because idiots has no intelligence like this. Because it depends from IQ. Because yeah, an idiot looks like a human, but actually his
No,
mind
no.
like mind of monkey. Yeah, and we can say he's like a monkey. Yeah, would you agree?
A monkey does not have the ability to think and reason. That's a core thing. Doesn't matter how much IQ you give a monkey, it's still a monkey. It will not be able to speak suddenly. It will not be able to rationalize and formulate ideas. It works on instincts. That's a basic idea of animals.
Take a look at an idiot with 20 IQ. He or she cannot speak too because so level of IQ. Like it's like an animal because he or she cannot speak too because 20 IQ maybe 10 IQ. Mm,
You're talking about
actually,
perceptions that, even them, if the illness was removed from them, they would, assume that they have an illness to have this IQ. Uh, if it was removed from them, if they were cured, they will have the ability to think and rationalize with no problems because they have the facilities for it, but they are impaired. A monkey does not have the facility for thinking like a human being.
but monkey are smart too, and they can be learned. And dogs can be learned like this, and
Okay. Anyways,
they have
I
they
think this
Mhm,
I think this book
mhm.
speaks about an idea of uh, it's from a perspective of Christians, maybe.
It's about rational and logical understanding of the Bible and other holy books, because Swedenborg gives us the method of understanding figurative language, because Bible and Quran and other holy books use figurative language, and figurative language is like the next kind of language. It's the language of wise people, because by using figurative language we can transmit more information and we can receive more information if you're wise,
Okay.
because children, for example, they cannot use figurative language and they cannot understand figures of speech, because children understand everything in literal sense, because they
Okay.
have brain but they have no mind, they have no intelligence actually.
I disagree,
But
but
mhm.
the thing is, I'm talking about uh, figurative language differs from language to language, and the Bible was not in English. So figurative language in this, context is weird to me. Like, how are you understanding figurative language of of a book that was not written in this language and it was translated, so maybe the figure of speech was lost because now you only have the understanding of the person who translated the figure of speech. Uh, and you know, how does it explain? Like, the Bible was not written in English, right? No.
It is written in Hebrew and Hebrew language and in Greek, New Testament, is in Greek language, but Old Testament of the Bible in Hebrew language. And after Bible was translated in English
Mm-hmm.
from Greek and from Hebrew. Mm-hmm. That because we can understand the meaning of if you know Hebrew language, we can understand the meaning of English words. And Swedenborg tries to explain us it. We can learn from him. A lot of great people loved to read books of Swedenborg and learned from them because it's about mind. It's about present moment. It's not about past. Don't think about past because God is outside time and space. God is
Okay.
uh, God is eternal. It means He doesn't depend from time and space.
I mean, there's a lot of assumptions with this book, reading this book that I disagree with. Like, how can you tell the Genesis book is from God from the first place? Jesus spoke Aramaic, and this book was written much later on. So many questions out here. But carry on. I don't want to interrupt you any further.
It's about spiritual meaning of the book of Genesis. It's not about historical or literal meaning the book of Genesis, but it's about what is going on right now. It is about your mind. It is about your soul. It is about your understanding of everything. What are we doing here on this planet Earth? What's God's plan? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these things, as someone who, as a Muslim, I take them directly from the Quran. They are explicit. They are to us. And the spiritual meanings, quote unquote, are meanings that you give to the text in this scenario. Uh, you're looking deep into a text that you don't know it's from God. Looking for, I think this is just fishing in muddy waters. You are trying to, understand things that, or think about things, following assumptions, basically. It's all guesswork. Maybe it meant this, or maybe it meant that. But even the text is not from God, so how can you say this is from God? It's not, that's you're not 100% sure about, right? So how can you speak about the spiritual meaning?
Who is God? If you're talking about God, we should explain and we should understand what it means, what God means, or what this term means. Because you say God, but if you don't understand what it means, it means you can't explain it. You cannot
God
explain
is
the
the one who
meaning of
made
God.
everything. God is the one who made everything. He is the all wise. He's the one who created the heavens and the earth and everything that exists. A being that is unlike anything that we can imagine. Above all our imagination, even.
You
He's
know,
one who is beautiful.
a modern quantum theory says that the universe had no beginning and has no end.
What modern
Mm,
quantum theory says that?
Quantum theory mm, says
Quantum
that
researchers.
I don't know. I read about it. If you type in Google quantum theory, universe had no beginning
Okay.
and has no end. You can see this theory. And
Even if
actually,
it has
because what is
even
time? Because if you say God created the universe,
time
you
and space,
mean
yes.
yeah, you're using time and you're using past tense, yeah,
Mhm.
because you're talking about past. But
Not necessarily.
uh, mhm.
Not necessarily. Created can mean caused. So he's the reason for existence. Even if it was eternal, as you are, you know, putting forward, even if it was eternal, it would be static. Nothing will change. It will need a mover.
Do you believe that the universe is not eternal? I think the universe is
No, I
eternal
don't.
because it's without end.
I don't believe
It's
that. But if you
no.
even if you believe that, even if you believe that, what moved it? What caused it to move? Why is it not a blank, empty space? Why is it even space?
Yeah, it's
Because at,
good. It is a good question. What is space?
yeah,
It's like a concept because nobody knows what is space and nobody knows what is time. Yeah,
yeah,
because if you're
but
talking,
without
what
move,
is time?
without yeah, without an if a cause without a cause there is no effect. So why are there effects? If there was no cause and this world is eternal, why are there effects? What is causing these? So, you know, talking about the first deity that caused all of this, it's a necessary existence. It's logically what must be in existence, so anything can happen. And it doesn't make sense to have an eternal universe, to be honest with you. Like I'm sure, like according to relativity, the universe is expanding. Expanding into what exactly? It's limited. So
It's
you,
old theory says that the universe had beginning. It's like Big Bang, but it's old theory. But new quantum theory says that the universe is eternal and without end and without beginning, and like this. But
I'm sure, but
where do you know it from? That the universe had beginning. You didn't live in that moment when the universe had beginning, and you cannot prove it. That because how can you say it? The
maybe
universe
it's a
had beginning, but
hypothesis,
you,
man.
you should, yeah, you
I
should
don't. I
you
haven't.
should explain what was before beginning of the universe. You can't explain it. Yeah,
We know that
yeah.
time and space has started, so we have no understanding of what was before time and space, but it must be reliant on it, so we can know that it depends on something else.
What is time? Because I can say time is does not exist. What is time? Time is like a teaching. It's
Time and
like a
space
concept.
is
What is
yes,
time?
but time
What is
is
time?
i- time is how
Do
events
do
occur.
angel do animals have time? For example, does your cat or does your dog have time? Does your dog
Yes, yes,
think about time? No, your dog
yeah.
or your cat
Biologically
has
speaking,
no
you
idea
have
about time.
you have internal clocks that tell you about time, that tell you how when to sleep, when to eat, when to do things. You have time is not something abstract as you are putting it to be. It's a real thing that it it's the combination of movement. It needs time to take an effect. Needs time to take place. So that's what we call time.
It's information. I mean, you from your childhood, you are taught about time, and it means your brain received the information
Oh,
about time. It's like a teaching and doctrine, and you think about time. But if you are not taught about time, it means you have no information about time, and you cannot think about time. It means time
if you don't
doesn't
know,
exist for you. Yeah.
no, if you don't know about an objective reality, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Time is an objective reality that nothing can take place without it. Without time, you can't go somewhere. Without time, we can't move. You'll be static. Nothing would change. Time is change. Uh, That's the thing. Time is change. If there's no
Do,
time, there's no change.
our time, our earthly time depends from our sun. Yeah, and because we count days and night
Maybe,
days
maybe,
from
maybe,
our
maybe
sun. Yeah, yeah, like
yes. Maybe
one day, 2 day.
our perception of time is something that we created to understand how movement. That is not what I'm talking about. Our perception of time is our perception of time. That is, you are correct. That is something we constructed. But time is the change that takes place. Time is the present. Time is the future. We can't know about the future. We can't know. We can't go to the past. Time is change. The
But
change.
Is God changing? Is God changing? I mean,
No,
if God
change
is eternal,
happens.
yeah,
Change
is God
happens
eternal?
because is God eternal? What do you mean exactly by eternal?
Uh,
He's not subject to
it
time?
means God doesn't depend from time. If God is eternal,
Yes, yes.
why does God need to think about time? If he is eternal, he
He causes
he
changes, and that is what we perceive as time. He is the causer of change, and that's why we have time. But he is not subject to his changes, so that is what time is. Like he is not under his own changes. Like he doesn't change, but he causes the change. If you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand your point of view. I
Hmm.
cannot prove it. Okay, maybe we can
Okay.
read next, and we can try to understand his point of view, because
Yes.
it's about topic. I
Right.
mean, this book. And
Yeah.
if you
So
want to Mhm.
I just wanted to add, like in Islam, we have a narration, a hadith about God. He, the Prophet ﷺ was advising us to not curse time, because God is the causer of this time. So it's an Islamic idea that I'm speaking about here.
Actually, I don't believe in time. I think time is like an illusion. It's like because if you
You
think
didn't believe
about
in
time,
change?
you think about death. Hmm?
You didn't believe that
It's
there's changes? Like when I speak, that is an effect. That is change. That is time moving in real time, right? But the construct
because
that we perceive, the construct that we made to understand these concepts, I understand that you might say, I don't believe that it exists outside of our experience. And I agree with that. That is a construct for us to understand what is, happens around us. So when we say
uh,
it's 5 p.m., you know, we're saying the sun has moved to this X place in it changed to this position in the sky, right?
mm. Imagine this situation. For example, you live underground, and you don't see sun, and you don't have watch to
Mm-hmm.
see what time is it.
Yeah.
And you live 1 year. You live 1 year underground. And if I will ask you, what time is it? If I will ask you, what time is it? You will answer, I have no idea about what time is it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I agree with you.
is it a day or is it a night? You have no idea about time. It means time does not exist for you if you don't see sun. Yeah, but if you see sun, if you see calendar, you can say what
Mhm.
time is it. If you see your watch, uh,
Yeah, that's why they say time is relative, right? Time relativity speaks all about that. But what I'm trying to tell you, man,
yeah,
I exactly agree with you. Our concept of to understanding change is time. If we cannot see change, we can't tell the time. So I agree with you. We
yeah,
if
and
we
if
can,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and if you live underground and you don't have mirror, you cannot see yourself, and you cannot see is you changeable or not. You cannot
Yeah,
see
but
change of your body, and you can say, oh, I don't know how old are you.
if time
Do you
didn't
see?
exist as as a reality, you are saying by if you're saying it doesn't exist, the concept of describing difference, that's what you mean. But the idea of change still exists. So you can make a new measurement that you basically measure time with. So because change is, time is a measurement for change.
Yeah,
So
but if
so
if you don't see change in your body because you don't have mirror, for example, and you cannot see yourself, and if I will ask you, how old are you? You will answer me, I have no idea how old I am. Yeah, because
yeah,
you think time, you don't know it.
it's a
Maybe
complex
one
topic.
year.
Yeah.
You Mhm.
It's yeah, a complex subject. But at the end of the day, when we speak about the one who created the heavens and the earth and these things, we say he authored those things, and he's the author of change, and he is the author of existence. So he is not subject to that. So he is not subject to change. That's first, right? He must know everything because he causes everything to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
That because yeah, I watched a movie about space travels in space and when 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 we are in space we have no idea about time because you
yeah,
don't see sun yeah, in
yes,
space. You can fly 10 years in space and you have no idea about time and you have no idea how old are you if you don't
yeah,
see
yeah,
our
yeah.
sun. Mhm.
But change still exists. Yeah, so if you can see something that you observe always, you can say, "I will measure my time based on this." So you know it's 1445 according to the Islamic calendar. That is, you know, my age is 1 year older in that calendar, right?
Yeah.
So it's relative.
Yeah.
It's relative to that thing. So that's what I'm telling you. Time is change, and our description is a construct to understand this change. If that makes sense. Eh, I hope that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about time, it means you think about death because you know you understand that you can live like 100 years, and
Hmm.
after 100 years you can die. And but if I don't believe in time, it means I don't believe in death, and death does not exist for me because I'm not afraid of death because I'm free, and it means I am free. Because if you are taught about death, it means you believe in death, but I don't believe in death. I think death is like an illusion. It means death does not exist for me, and I am not afraid. It means I am free, and I am eternal. Do you understand what I mean? Uh, Okay, I'm just trying to understand the point of view of Emmanuel Swedenborg. I think he tries to explain us it. Let's read. I read one section, and if you want to read, you can read next section after me. On this account, they beg. Mhm. Ha- yeah, I was reading here. The reason for the difference is this: heavenly people acknowledge that the human race is sheer filth, that in itself it is made of excrement and is hellish. On this account, they beg the Lord for mercy, since mercy is the fitting word for people who feel this way. Spiritual people, on the other hand, might know intellectually that the human race is such, but they do not accept it internally because they hold fast to their sense of self sufficiency and love it. As a consequence, they have a hard time saying the word mercy, but an easy time saying grace. This results from the type of humility in each of the two. The more we love ourselves and consider ourselves capable of doing good on our own in order to earn salvation, the less able we are to plead for the Lord's mercy. The reason some are able to ask the Lord's grace or favor is that it has become a customary way of speaking. When the request is merely formal, grace contains little of the Lord, but is full of oneself. You can examine this in yourself when you call on the Lord's grace. The symbolism of Noah and his sons as the ancient church has already been stated and illustrated and can be seen in what follows. Okay, who wants to read next, maybe from section 983?
I.
Yeah, go ahead.
The symbolism of reproducing as a good effort of charity and multiplying as the true ideas of with which now increased can be seen from the symbolism of both terms in the word. Everywhere in the word, reproducing, that is, bearing fruit, is used in connection with charity, and multiplying in connection with the faith. See earlier statements about the symbolism in 43 and 55. For even stronger confirmation of that symbolism, let me cite the following passages in
Jeremiah.
come back, rebellious, rebellious,
Came back rebellious children.
rebellious children. I will give you
Shepherds.
shepherds after my own heart, and they will pasture you with knowledge and understanding, and it will come about that you will multiply and reproduce on the earth. The multiplying clearly stands for growth in knowledge and understanding, that is, in faith, and reproducing stands for growth in the good efforts of charity. The passage is talking about the planting of a church, and faith multiplication comes first in this process. In the same author, I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands to which I dispersed, and I will bring them back to their force, and they will reproduce and multiply. This is about a church that has been planted, saying that it will reproduce or be fruitful in regard to the good efforts of charity and multiply in regard to the true ideals of faith in Moses. What is more, I will look on you and make you reproduce and make you multiply, and I will set up my compact with you. The inner meaning here had to do with a heavenly type of church, so that the good inspired by love and kindness is said to reproduce, while the good impulse and true
Impulses and true concepts.
concepts of faith are said to multiply in the church.
Zechariah.
I will redeem them, and they will multiply as they used to multiply. The use of multiply in these words to describe religious truth is evident from the fact that they were to be redeemed. The city will be rebuilt on its own. Mount and phrase will come out of them, as will the sound of people frolicking, and I will make them multiply, and they will not what's mean? What?
And they will not dwindle. What is this? Dwindle, maybe. You can see this, the meaning.
Dwindle.
Dwindle, like decrease, diminish, dry up, degenerate, like melt away, fade away.
Okay.
Dwindle.
And his offspring will be as they once were.
What is frolicking?
Frolicking.
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 It's fun.
Frolicking. Yeah, it's like fun. Frolicking. Mhm. As will the sound of people frolicking. Mhm. Mhm.
The passage is about the positive response to truth and about religious truth. Phrase and the sound of people frolicking indicate positive responses to truth. Multiplication indicates an increase in the amount of religious truth. Here, to the offspring or sons stand for truth. Thank you.
Mhm. The fact that filling the earth means that the good effects of charity and the true ideas of faith increased in the outer self is established by the symbolism of the earth as the outer self, which several earlier sections discuss. The case with the good impulses of charity and the true ideas of faith in regenerate person is that they are implanted in the person's conscience. Since they're implanted through faith, that is, through hearing the message, they first lodge in the person's memory, which is part of the outer self. When the person has been reborn and the inner self is active, fruitfulness and multiplication follow the same pattern. The good impulses of charity make themselves evident in the feelings belonging to the person's outer self, and the true ideas of faith do so in the memory. In both places, they increase and multiply. Anyone who has regenerated can see what this multiplication is like. Regenerate people are always gaining new confirmation from the world, from the rational side, and from facts they have learned. All three of these give them greater and greater assurance. This kind of multiplication is one of the effect of neighborly love, an effect the Lord alone produces, working through that love. Genesis 9:2. Maybe someone wants to read? Genesis 9:2. And may fear of you and terror of you be on every beast of the earth and on every bird of the sky. As for everything that the ground causes to creep out, and as for all the fish of the sea, into your hands let them be given. Fear of you and terror of you symbolizes mastery exerted by the inner self. I forgot this word exerted, like fact maybe.
Exerted.
Yeah, fact.
Exerted.
Exerted by the inner self. Fear has to do with evil and terror with falsity. On every beast of the earth means over cravings in the lower mind. On every bird of the sky means over falsities produced by skewed logic. As for everything that the ground causes to creep out symbolizes a passion for what is good. As for all the fish of the sea symbolizes facts. Into your hands let them be given symbolizes what properly belongs to the inner self as it exists in the outer self. The symbolism of fear of you and terror of you as mastery exerted by the inner self. Fear having to do with evil and terror with falsity can be seen from the circumstances of a regenerated person. Before we have regenerated, our circumstances are ones in which the cravings and falsities of the outer self remain in perpetual control, and this causes a struggle. When we have regenerated, the inner self takes control over the outer, or in other words, over its cravings and falsities. When the inner self is in charge, we respond to evil with fear and to falsity with terror, because both violate conscience and acting against conscience horrifies us. The inner self, though, is not afraid of evil or frightened of falsity. Only the outer self is. So the present verse says that fear of you and terror of you will be on every beast of the earth and every bird of the sky. That is, on all the cravings symbolized by a beast and on the falsities symbolized by a bird of the sky. The fear and the terror seem to be ours, but here is the actual situation. As mentioned before, we each have with us at least two angels connecting us to heaven and two evil spirits connecting us to hell. When the angels are in charge, as they are in a person reborn, the evil spirits that are present do not dare to make the slightest assault on goodness or truth, because they are then in assault. Yeah, it's like attack.
Assault.
Assault. Because they are then in chains when they do try to do anything bad or say something false, or rather try to God. What is this? God.
Goad.
Oh, it's like goad. Goad.
Goad.
Goad. Like impel inside.
Goad.
Goad us into doing so. Hellish fear and terror I immediately fall on them. Their fear and terror is what we feel when we face anything that violates conscience. In consequence, as soon as we do or say anything that offends conscience, we undergo inner struggle and suffer pangs of conscience, or in other words, experience a kind of torment that feels like hell. The reason fear is used for evil and terror for falsity that the spirits we have with us are not as fearful of doing wrong as they are of telling lies. It is through the true concepts of faith that people find rebirth and gain conscience. So spirits are not allowed to stir up falsities. Each of these spirits is mere evil, so that they live in evil. Their whole nature and consequently their every effort is evil. And since they live in evil and the vital energy that is their very own consists in evil, the wrong they do is overlooked if they are being useful in some way. Spreading falsity, however, is not permitted. The reason for this prohibition is to enable them to learn what is true and so improve as much as they can in order to serve some manual use. What is manual?
Menial.
Menial. It's like servant. To serve some menial use. I will have more to say on this later, though the Lord's divine mercy permitting. The situation is similar in regenerate people because their conscience is formed out of the truth taught by faith. As a result, the conscience focuses on correctness, correctness, and to them, the evil that one commits is actually falsity because it violates religious truth. It was different for the people of the earliest church who had perception. They perceived the evil that one commits as evil and the falsity that one believes in as falsity. The fact that on every beast of the earth means our cravings in the lower mind is established by the symbolism of a beast in the word. Their beasts symbolize passions or cravings. Beasts that are tame, useful, and clean symbolize passions for something good. Beasts that are savage, useless, and unclean symbolize passions for evil or cravings. Because, for more on the sea, because they symbolize cravings here, they are called beasts of the earth, not beasts of the field, in respect to the mastery exercised by regenerate people over their cravings. Everyone needs to realize the tremendous error and totally unregenerate nature of people who imagine that they can subdue evil by their own efforts. Own efforts, maybe.
Efforts.
Yeah. Own efforts. Human beings are nothing but evil. We are a mass of evils. Our whole will is unmitigated. What is this unmitigated evil?
Unmitigated.
Unmitigated like absolute. Our whole will is unmitigated evil. That is why Genesis 8:21 said, "What human hearts fabricate is evil from their youth." Personal experience has shown me that people and the spirits and even angels viewed in themselves that is their whole selfhood are the most worthless excrement. It has also shown me that when left to themselves, all they meditate is hatred, vengefulness, cruelty, and the fullest adulteries. What fullest?
Foulest.
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 It's like filthy, disgusting, foulest.
Foulest.
And the foulest adulteries. These are their own impulses. These are their will. Anyone can see that same thing simply by massing to this
Musing.
using like thinking. Musing on this, simply by musing on this. It's like music. Musing on this, that at birth we are the beasts. That at birth we are the basest. What is this basest?
Basest.
It's like basest, low. We are the basest living creatures among all the wild animals and beasts. After growing up and coming into our own, we would plunge into atrocities.
Atrocities.
Atrocities is like crime, horror, riots, atrocities of every kind of various restraints did not stop us. External legal restraints and restraints. What is this?
Restraints.
It's like moderation. Restraints, okay. And the restraints we place on ourselves in seeking to grow us influential, influential, and rich as possible. Influential.
Influential.
Influential, like powerful. Influential and rich as possible. We would not stop until we had overpowered every person in the universe and raked. Maybe raked? Raked.
Raked.
Raked. It's like shoot, grab, and raked up everyone's wealth. Raked up everyone's wealth. We would spare none but those who submitted to us as lowly slaves. That is what each of us is like, although we do not perceive it when we have no opportunity or power to achieve it, and when we are under restraint, as mentioned. If opportunity and ability presented themselves and their restraints were loosened, we would run just as wild as we could. Animals are not at all the same. They're born into a kind of preordained system of nature. Preordained. To this.
Preordained.
Preordained. Preordained. Like predestination. Kind of preordained system of nature. The savage predators among them do hurt other animals, but only to protect themselves. Predators.
Predators.
Predators. Predators. It's like
Beast.
animal. Yeah, beast. Beast of prey. It's like lions. Lions, tigers, predators.
Predators.
Predators. Among them do hurt other animals, but only to protect themselves. And when they eat other animals, they are satisfying their hunger. Once satisfied, they inflict no more harm. Humans are completely different. These things demonstrate what human selfhood and human will are like. Since we are such a horrible, massive heap of wickedness and dung, we obviously have no ability whatever to conquer evil on our own. It is absolutely self-contradictory to say that evil can control evil. And not only that it can control evil, but that it can control hell. Each of us communicates with hell by means of evil spirits, and it is this contact that arouses the evil in us. From this, anyone can see, or if sane, come to the conclusion that only the Lord can control the evil and the hell we harbor within. In order to subdue the evil in us, or in other words, to subdue hell, which spends every second trying to attack and destroy us forever, the Lord regenerates us and gives us the gift of a new will, which is conscience. Through it, the Lord alone achieves every positive result. Faith teaches that we are nothing but evil and that everything good is from the Lord, so we must not only learn it, but also acknowledge and believe it. If we do not acknowledge and believe it in this life, it will be vividly demonstrated to us in the other life. The fact that on every bird of the sky means of a false city is produced by skewed logic can be seen from the symbolism of a bird. In the word, birds symbolize matters of understanding. Those that are tame, useful, and pretty symbolize true ideas in the intellect, but those that are savage, useless, and ugly symbolize misconceptions of the intellect or falsities produced by the misuse of reason. See, for evidence that birds symbolize matters of understanding. The same evidence can lead to the conclusion that they symbolize shoddy logic and the false ideas. Shady or shady? Shady.
Shady.
Shady. Mhm. Shady like shadow, dark. Shady. That they symbolize shady logic and the false ideas it produces. For the removal of all doubt on this score, the following passages, in addition to the statements in about ravens, will serve as proof. In Jeremiah, I will exact punishment of 4 kinds of them, with the sword to kill, and with dogs to drag, and with the bird of the sky and the beast of the earth to devour and destroy. In Ezekiel, on its wreckage,
Wreckage.
like collapse, wreckage, death. On its wreckage will live every bird of the sky, and among its branches will stand every wild animal of the field. In Daniel, then at last upon the abominable bird ruin. In John, Babylon is a prison for every unclean and loathsome bird. The prophets frequently say that a corpse would be given as food to the birds of the sky and beasts of the earth. The meaning was that people would be destroyed by false notions, the birds of the sky, and evil impulses or cravings, the beasts of the earth. In regard to mastery over false cities, it is like mastery over evil. That is to say, we have not the least ability to overcome false thinking on our own. The discussion here is about the mastery regenerate people exercise over their corrupt desires, the beast of the earth and their false cities, the bird of the sky. In view of this, it needs to be known that we have no right at all to say we have regenerated until we acknowledge and believe that charity is the most important part of our faith, and until we feel love for our fellow humans and show mercy to them, love for others forms the regenerate person's new will. Love for others and not faith devoid of evil is the means by which the Lord does good in the world and puts the resulting truth to work. Some people do acts of kindness purely out of obedience because the Lord commanded it, even though they are not regenerate. If they avoid the attitude that good deeds make us righteous, we regenerate in the other life. Mhm. Okay. Is it? Mhm. It's a big.
You want me to read?
Yeah, if you can. Which is
Okay.
because it's a big verse. I was reading a lot. Thank you.
Okay. As for everything that the ground causes to creep out, symbolizes a passion for what is good, as suggested both by remarks above and by the symbolism of the ground from which those animals are produced or creep out. Remarks above suggest this symbolism because the subject there is evil and falsity, which the reborn person gains control over. The subject here, then, is the passion for good that is given into such a person's hands. As for the symbolism of the ground, from which those animals are produced or creep out. The ground, in a general sense, means that the people of the church and any quality that exists in it. So, in the present verse, it means whatever the Lord produces in the outer self by way of the inner. The the actual ground is in the outer self, in the feelings and the memory of the outer self. Since we seem to produce good results ourselves, it says everything that the ground causes to creep out. This is an appearance, however. It is the Lord. It is the Lord working through our inner self who does so things. To repeat, nothing good or true exists except from the Lord. As for all the fish of the sea symbolizes facts, as the symbolism of a fish indicates, fish in the word symbolize facts that rise out of sensory information. There are three kinds of facts: facts truly understood, facts seen rationally, and facts coming from the senses. All three kinds are shown in the memory, or rather in different types of memory. And in a regenerate person, it is from the memory by way of the inner self that the Lord calls on them. The last type, facts gleaned from sensory evidence, comes to our awareness or notice while we are physical.
Gleaned. What is
Yeah,
this? Facts
I was
gleaned.
asking. You can check.
Mm.
Gleaned.
Pick, collect.
Ah,
Okay.
collect.
It's like
Gleaned.
glean, glean.
Mhm. Pick up, collect. While we are physically
Wait, give me a moment.
alive. Mhm.
Physical,
While physically,
physically alive.
physically. Mhm.
Because we base our thinking on it. The other two, which are deeper, do not do so until we have put off our bodies and enter the other world. For the symbolism of fish, or the creeping things that the waters produce as facts, see above. For the symbolism of a large sea creatures or whale as general categories of fact. The symbolism can be further established by the following passages in the word in Zephaniah. I will make human and animal die out. I will make the bird in the heavens and the fish in the sea die out. The bird in the heavens stands for rational concepts. The fish in the sea for rational concepts on a lower plane. That is for human thought that develops out of facts supplied by the senses. In is it what is it?
Habakkuk is
Habakkuk.
it's a book of prophets. Yeah,
Habakkuk.
Habakkuk, like
What?
Habakkuk.
Hab-
Maybe Habakkuk or Habakkuk. Habakkuk.
Habakkuk. Okay. In Habakkuk, you will make humankind like fish of the sea, like a creeping thing, which has no ruler. Making humankind like the fish of the sea stands for making us entirely, entirely sense oriented. In Hosea, the earth will mourn, and everything living in it will lose strength, including the wild animal of the field and the bird of the heavens, and the fish of the sea will also disappear. The fish of the sea stand for facts yielded by sensory evidence. In David, all things you have put under his feet, the animals of the fields, the flying thing in the heavens, and the fish in the sea, that which travels the thorough thoroughfares.
Let's see, what is it?
Thoroughfares. Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares.
It's like
Thoroughfares.
highways, street, transport artery.
Transport artery.
Yeah, because fish,
Thoroughfares.
fish travels like streets. Fish, yeah, I know. Fish in the sea have streets to travel,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
which travels the thorough.
Thoroughfares. Thoroughfares. Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares. Or maybe we can see
Thoroughfares.
thoroughfares. Maybe
Thoroughfares.
we can see picture. Picture
Thoroughfares.
can give us clear meaning, like
Yeah.
thoroughfares. To imagine it, yeah, it's interesting.
Ah,
It's
okay.
like,
Okay.
yeah,
It's
yeah. Down, for example, downtown thoroughfare, like this.
thoroughfares.
Yeah.
Thoroughfares.
Of this
Am I saying correct? Thoroughfares.
thoroughfares, thoroughfares, like this. Fairs, maybe fairs.
Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares. Thoroughfares. Do you see transcription? Transcription like thoroughfares. Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares.
Thoroughfares. Okay.
Thoroughfares.
Of the seas. Or of the seas. This is about the Lord's power to rule in us. The fish in the sea stand for facts. Seas symbolize facts, knowledge gathered together, as may be seen earlier in Isaiah. The fishers will, is it lament? Lament.
Lament, maybe.
Lament. I think
Lament.
it's
Like
lament.
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 Okay. Lament. It's like cry. Wail, groan, weep.
Lament.
Lament.
Fishers. Like fishermen.
The fishers will lament, and all who cast a hook into the river will mourn, and those spreading a net on the face of the water will languish.
Languish. I don't know what it means. Languish.
Yes, me
maybe,
too.
But
Water with languish.
we should type it languish. Languish, maybe, because this word is separated. Languish.
ISH. I.
Yeah, like this, yeah. Yeah. This word, yeah, languish.
Yes.
Languish.
Languish.
It's like torment, wither. It's like miserable.
Miserable.
It's like, torment, pain. Like torturing, like this.
Okay.
Languish.
The fishers stand for those who rely exclusively on the testimony of the senses, from which they hatch false ideas. The passage has to do with Egypt, or factual knowledge. Into your hands let them be given symbolizes what property belongs to the inner self as it exists in the outer self. As the things already said show, it can also be seen from the symbolism of a hand, dealt with above in the text says, "Into your hands let them be given," because that is how it appears. Shall I continue?
Mhm. Yeah, if you're not tired, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, Genesis 9:3. Wait, Genesis is up to 11, right?
11. It's 9:3. Chapter
No,
9:3.
no. I'm asking. Genesis is 1 to 11. Is it? Oh,
Ah, we can check it out. Genesis. One you can see Genesis up in my Bible. The book
what are
of
you using? The
Genesis.
NIV? NIV stands for new. New. Is it
New
interpret?
International.
Oh,
New,
international.
new
International
inter,
vibe.
yeah, it's the most popular Bible in the world.
And
NIV version.
KJV stands for King James. Is it King James?
Yeah, King James version. Yeah,
Mhm.
this Bible has two, like, NIV, KJV, and I can compare NIV and KJV. Do you see? It's like,
Because right now I'm using the ESV, like English standard version.
mm, yeah, I have.
Maybe maybe I can download that one too.
Yeah, I have read, because I have read a NIV version at all.
Mhm.
I mean,
Is that free?
because it's, yeah, this application is free,
Okay.
and NIV is my favorite version. It's easy to read and to understand. I have read
Yeah.
NIV version. I didn't read KJV because KJV uses old English language, but NIV is
Mhm.
modern English language. It's very easy
Okay.
to read and to understand. That because
Okay.
I have read NIV, and it
Mm.
has Genesis.
Oh, there's a lot
Genesis
in
has
the.
50, 50
Okay.
chapters.
Okay. Okay. It's a bit long.
Actually, this application is very good because, do you see, there are a lot of versions, and I
Mhm.
can download a lot of a lot of versions, like of Bible, and like, for example, I can download AKGV if I will type like this. For example, here I can see. Okay, it's like a lot of Bibles here in this version. For example,
Oh, it can be translated. No.
yeah, a lot of. 1 second. I will do it in English. In English, like this. Oh, okay. Maybe I don't know how can I do it in English.
It's okay. It's
Okay,
okay. I'll check it out myself.
because they see it's like this application has maybe, if you see in English, this, mm, like languages, a lot of languages.
Mhm.
Yeah, for example, English, B, C, D, E. Where is it? Yeah, USA. For example, USA. Okay,
Oh.
maybe this application has all versions of the Bible for
Mhm.
languages, like
Mhm.
free, without
Yes.
cost, like free.
So you have two application for the Bible, or it's just the same?
So say that again. What do you say?
No, I said you have two version of Bible, two application.
In this application I have KJV and AKJV, but I can download another versions if if I want.
No, what was the other one?
It's a Ukrainian Bible. Second, like Ukrainian, and this is KJV plus AKJV plus, and this is Russian. Like, but I downloaded, but I can download it another version if I want. For example, in English modern language, yeah, and English. Do you see? It's English versions I can download like ACV, ABU, and KGV, ACV, American Standard Version,
Yeah.
and Bishop's Bible, Bible in Basic English,
I'm
Bavarian.
using English Standard Version. Right.
Let's see. Let's see. Maybe I have this English ABCD.
END version.
Mm.
Oh.
I don't see this. ES. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. English Standard Version.
Yeah.
It's not free version because you should buy it. Do you see this version has rights to, I should buy it. It's not free. It's not free.
Okay.
It's not so good to read because it's not free. And NIV version is not free. Maybe it's good to read maybe free Bible version. KJV is free. For example, a lot of versions, but what is free, you can see what is free. Because if I can download it, it means it's free. But do you see a lot of versions? Like a lot of versions.
I already downloaded the My Bible application.
You can download these applications like most beautiful application.
What is it? What was the application?
It's My Bible. 1 second, I can show you. But I don't see here. This is you can see it by My Bible. This is this application. My Bible.
Oh yeah.
Without space. Yeah. My Bible without space, like this. Do you see on the top? My Bible on the top.
Yeah.
Without space. If you'll type in.
Okay.
Play Market. My Bible without space. You can find these applications.
Yes. I've already seen it.
Hello. I'm back.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to hear you.
Maybe he wants to read.
Oh no. Go ahead, guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Sir, I had to leave earlier because I had to work.
Okay. So I'll start again. Genesis 9:3. Every creeping thing that is alive will serve you for food. I have given it all to you, as I gave you the green plants. Every creeping thing that is alive symbolizes any lower pleasure that contains some goodness, which is the living aspect. Will serve you for food symbolizes the joy that people would have in these pleasures. Green plants symbolize the humblest kinds of pleasure.
Humble. Do you know what is humble?
Humble, yes, but humblest,
Mhm.
I'm not.
It's
I
like
don't
more
know.
humble.
Oh yeah,
Humblest.
okay.
Humblest.
Humblest.
Humblest. Humblest.
Humblest. It's like meek,
Hmm.
simple, poor, humblest.
Mm.
Okay. The humblest kinds of pleasures. All of it given to you means enjoying it because it is useful. Okay. Every creeping thing that is alive symbolizes any lower pleasure that contains some goodness, which is the living aspect. This can be seen from the symbolism of a creeping thing discussed previously. Anyone can see that the creeping things mean all clean animals and birds because it says that they were supplied as food. Strictly speaking, creeping things are those that were the most contemptible of all. They said in the
What is
Leviticus.
contemptible?
Contemptible.
It's like miserable.
Despicable. Okay.
hmm
Miserable.
Contemptible.
Contemptible. For example, Jesus was contemptible on the cross, like this. Contemptible.
Are you still
And
reading the
unclean.
same book? Sorry to interrupt. Are you still reading the same book?
Yeah, it's the same book. It's the next verse we did. Secrets of Heaven.
Oh,
It's very big book. It's 3,352 pages.
okay.
Okay. And unclean in a wider sense. Though the sense used here, they are animals supplied as food. They are being called creeping things because creeping things symbolize lower pleasures. In the word, clean animals symbolize our more tender emotional responses, as noted, but since we are not aware of those responses except as revealed in our lower pleasures.
For example, pigs are unclean animals. Yeah, that because we cannot eat them like this. Yeah. Do you eat pigs? Like mm, meat of pigs like this?
Meat,
How,
yeah.
how
No, I
can you
don't.
say how can how how it? I mean, this word like meat of pigs. Per na like pork.
Pork.
Do, do you know this word? Like, for example, if you go to restaurant and
Yes,
you want to
yes,
eat
yes.
meat of pigs,
I
you
get it.
should say this word. I forgot this word.
Pork. You
Pork. Yeah,
should.
pork.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay.
In our Lord pleasures much.
So much so that we actually refer to them as pleasures. They are called creeping things here. There are two
No.
kinds of lower pleasures, those that involve the will and those that involve the intellect. These are the general types of pleasure. Pleasure is owning property and having other wealth, the pleasure of rank and high office in government, pleasure connected with love in marriage and with love for babies and children.
Hmm.
Pleasure in friendship and social contact, the pleasure of reading, writing, learning, and growing in wisdom. And there are many others. There are also pleasures of the senses. For instance, there is auditory, sorry, auditory pleasure, which is general is pleasure in the sweetness of song and music. Visual pleasure, which is general is pleasure in many different kinds of beauty. Olfactory pleasure. What was
Olfactory.
that?
What is this? Mhm. Oh,
olfactory,
It's about smell, like beautiful fragrance, like flowers, a sense of smell.
olfactory,
It's like if you like to smell flowers like roses, it's like it
Mhm.
gives of olfactory pleasure. Olfactory pleasure like this. Fragrance.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Which is pleasure in sweet. That's why it's sweet, right? Sense. Gustatory. Is it gustatory? Gustatory or gustatory?
Sense. What is this sense?
Sense
Sense.
is like
Uh, smell.
perfumes and
sense,
fragrance. Yeah, fragrance.
Fragrance. Aroma. Sense. Sweet sense. Uh,
Gu- Is it gustatory or gustatory?
Gustatory maybe. Ah,
gustatory,
gustatory. Ah,
Gustatory. Oh, flavor?
gustatory,
no. Gustatory is like what is flavor?
flavor,
No, gustatory. We can see the dictionary maybe. Gustatory, the explanation. It's about food. I understand it mm, like gourmand. How to say it word? Yeah, relating to or
Sense of taste.
associated
Like, or the
with
sense of taste.
yeah, sense of taste. Yeah, how to say this word? Associate. Associate. Yeah, it's a sense of taste, like pleasure.
Hmm.
Gustatory, yeah, gustatory.
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 gustatory,
Gustatory. Pleasure.
Pleasure,
Are you
which is pleasure in the wonderful flavor and useful qualities of food and drink. And is it tactile? Is it
Maybe
tactile
tactile. Let's
or
see it.
tactile?
Yeah,
tactile,
tactile. You're correct.
Oh, tactile.
Tactile, like think
Tangible.
sense of sensory of fingers like this. Tactile.
tactile,
Tactile pleasure. Like by touching any. For example, if you are touching your cat, you have tactile pleasure by touching your cat like this.
Hmm. Okay. Tactile
Because
pleasure.
your cat is soft and you can feel it by your fingers. It's like tactile pleasure. Okay, got it.
Mhm. Which is pleasure in a variety of agreeable sensations. These general kinds of gratification are felt in the body and so are called bodily pleasures. The body never experiences any kind of pleasure unless the pleasure springs from some deeper emotion that also sustains it. And no deeper emotion ever exists unless it comes from one still deeper that holds within it a use and purpose. In a use and purpose. These layers of emotion that go deeper and deeper all the way to our inmost reaches are not something we sense while we are living in the body. Most people hardly even realize that they exist, let alone that the lower pleasures stem from them. In reality, though, nothing can emerge on the surface if it does not come from progressively deeper sources. Sensual gratification is only an outward effect. As long as we live in the body, we cannot see what lies within unless we reflect on it. Deep, deeper elements first reveal themselves in the next life, and they do so sequentially as the Lord lifts us up toward heaven. Inner emotions with their satisfactions reveal themselves in the world of spirits. Emotions, yet deeper, with their delights, appear in the heaven of angelic spirits.
Just sequentially. Sequentially.
Sequentially.
Sequentially.
Successively.
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 Successively. Like gradually. Sequentially, like gradually. Sequentially. Of angelic spirits.
And emotion, yet deeper again, with their blessings, reveal themselves in the heaven of angels. There are indeed three heavens, each deeper, more perfect, and more blessed than the last, as may be seen in and these things unfold in order this way and disclose themselves to our awareness in the other world. But while we live in the body, since our whole focus and concentration is on bodily concerns, deeper, 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 deeper elements are essentially put to sleep, being overwhelmed by those concerns. Still, the thoughtful individual can see that our pleasures all reflect and layered depths of our emotional responses and derive their full existence and character from them. The progressively deeper layers of emotion are called creeping things because we experience them as pleasures that lie on the surface in our body. But this is only a physical manifestation. The effect of inner processes, as anyone can see merely from the power of sight and the pleasures that accompany it, unless there is an inner power of sight. The eye cannot possibly see. The vision of the eye arises from inner vision, for which reason we can still see just as well after the bodies that as when we were alive in the body. And much better. We simply do not see what is worldly and material, but rather what belongs to the other life. People who had been blind in physical life see as clearly in the next life as those who had been veritable. I don't know how to pronounce this one.
Veritable. Who is that?
It's like
Veritable.
It's like
veritable.
true. Like real.
Veritable.
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 Yeah, hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
What was that?
Links uses.
Lens uses. It's like maybe I don't know. Maybe we can see the picture. Maybe.
Lindsay's.
I think Google
Lindsay's.
doesn't have picture of it. Maybe.
Let's check. Lindsay. What is it? Lindsay's. Sees. Lindsay's.
One second. One second. No. It's not that.
Lindsay's. Lindsay's.
Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like do you see? This is like maybe microbes. Microbes.
Veritable. Very.
Yeah, they live in the sea like this maybe.
Yeah.
Like like little
Crab. No.
little things. Yeah.
How,
I don't know
how to pronounce it again? please.
Veritable
Linz uses.
Linz uses.
Lean
Linz uses.
shoes. Lean shoes. Lean shoes. For the same reason, when we are asleep, we see as well in our dreams as when we are awake. By means of inner sight, I have been allowed to see those objects of the next life more clearly than I can see the objects of the world. These considerations establish the fact that outer sight arises from inner sight, and this from sight still deeper. And so on, likewise with each of the other senses and with all the lower pleasures. Other places in the word as well call the lower pleasures creeping things. And those places also differentiate between clean and unclean ones. That is, between pleasures enjoyed in a living or heavenly way and pleasures enjoyed in a dead or hellish way. In Hosea,
Hosea.
for
Hosea.
example, for example, I will strike a pact with them on that day, with the wild animal of the field, and with the bird in the heavens, and the creeping thing of the ground. This passage demonstrates that the wild animal of the field, the bird in the heavens, and creeping things symbolize the kinds of things in us that I have already mentioned. Since it is talking about a new church in David, let the heavens and the earth, the seas, and every creeping thing in them praise Jehovah. The seas and the creeping things in them cannot praise Jehovah. Only the living, human attributes they symbolize. That is to say, he can be praised only from the living quality of those attributes in the same author. Praise Jehovah, you wild animals, and each of you beasts, you creeping thing and bird on the wing. The same is true here. The fact that these passages use creeping things to mean positive emotions from which gratifications stem can also be seen from the consideration that creeping things were unclean to the people of that time. This will become evident from the following quotations in the same author. Jehovah, the earth is full of your possessions. This sea is large and wide in its extent. In it, in it is the creeping thing, and there is no counting them. They all look to you to give them their food in its season. You give to them. They gather you. They gather. You open your hand. They receive abundant food.
Good.
Good. In the inner meaning, the seas symbolize spiritual entities, while the creeping things symbolize everything that receives its life from them, giving them food in its season and receiving abundant good, depict the enjoyment of pleasure in Ezekiel. And it will happen that every living soul that crawls in any place where the rivers go will survive, and the fish will be very numerous because that water goes there and is cured, and everything will live wherever the river goes. This is about water flowing from a new Jerusalem. Water stands for spiritual traits from a heavenly origin. The living soul that crawls stands for positive desires and gratifications they give rise to, both those that are personal and those are sensory. The fact that these receive life from the water, from spiritual traits of heavenly origin, is obvious. Tainted pleasures, which trace their origin to self absorption and so to the sordid cravings, self absorption, are also
What is sordid?
what's sordid.
Sordid cravings.
Sordid.
Disgusting. Mhm. Dirty like this.
Sordid.
Sordid cravings. And tainted. Tainted.
Tainted.
Tainted like.
Stained. Stained.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yes, stained and spoiled. Mhm. Decaying.
Decaying.
Decaying. Rotten. Tainted. Mhm.
Are also called creeping things, as can be seen in Ezekiel. And I went in and looked, and here every shape of creeping thing, an animal, an abhorrence, abhorrence,
Oh, yeah,
abhorrence,
what abhorrence?
abhorrence,
Abhorrence.
or abhorrence,
Abhorrence.
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 It's like disgust too.
Mhm.
Hated. Hated.
Hatred,
Abhorrence.
Abhorrence.
abhorrence. Where am I? Okay. And all the idols of the house were painted on the wall and ground. The shape of a creeping.
The word disgusting has a lot synonyms. It's like very big quantity of synonyms.
Mhm.
Like abhorrence.
Abhorrence
The shape of a creeping thing.
symbolizes creeping thing symbolizes foul pleasures, within which lie corrupt desires, which again lie hatred, vengeance, cruelty, and adultery. Such urges are creeping things, or the trail of a lower pleasure springing from love for ourselves and for worldly advantages, which is to say, from self absorption. These are the idols of the self absorbed, because these are the things they consider agreeable. Agreeable love, view as gods, and therefore is venerate.
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 Like revere, honor, worship,
Venerate.
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 And what is the thrill
Or
of a
the
lower pleasure?
excitement.
Thrill. Yeah, like excitement and sharp sensation, like this deep emotion. Thrill.
Okay. Use these creeping things symbolize such vile attributes. The representative church deemed them so unclean that it was not permissible even to touch them, and anyone who did so much as touch them was unclean, as shown by Leviticus. The symbolism of will serve you for food as a joy that people would.
Such vile. This.
Such vile, horrible, low.
Disgusting too. This the disgusting has a very lot quantity of synonyms. Disgusting, horrible and wild too. Mhm.
I'm sorry. What was the previous word?
The symbolism will serve you for food as the joy that people would have
Have in
this
this
pleasure.
pleasure can be seen from the fact that each of our pleasures not only touches us but also nourishes us the way food does. A pleasure that is not enjoyable is not pleasure but some lifeless thing. Joy is what makes it pleasurable in name and in fact. But the nature of joy involved determines and quality of the pleasure in themselves. Personal and sensory rewards are only material things, lifeless and dead. From delight, however, which emerges from progressively deeper sources inside us, they receive life. Plainly, then, the quality of the life we have in our deeper dimensions determines the nature of the enjoyment in our pleasures. Because enjoyment has life in it, delight that contains something good from the Lord is the only thing that is alive. Because in that case, it flows from the genuine life within goodness. That is why the verse says, every creeping thing that is alive will serve you for food. That is for enjoyment. Some believe that no one who wants to be happy in the other world should ever live among personal or sensual pleasures, but should have renounced them all. They assert that these are bodily and worldly distractions that hinder us from living a spiritual and heavenly life. But people who think this way and willingly subject themselves to misery while living in the world are misinformed as to the true situation. No one is ever forbidden to enjoy personal and sensory pleasures, which are this: pleasure in owning property and having other wealth, the pleasure of rank and high office in government, pleasure connected with love and marriage, and with love for babies and children, pleasure in friendship and social contact, auditory pleasure, or pleasure in the sweetness of song and music, visual pleasure or pleasure in the many kinds of beauty that exist, such as elegant clothes, fine mansions with all their furnishings, beautiful gardens, and similar objects whose symmetry makes them delightful, olfactory pleasure or pleasure in sweet scents, gustatory gustatory pleasure or pleasure in the wonderful flavor and useful qualities of food and drink, and tactile pleasures. These are, after all, Swedenborg. Hello? Oh, he lost his connection. I think. Can you hear me, guys? Hello? Okay. Do you want to read, Alex? Okay. Okay. Let's wait for a while. Maybe had problem in his connection. Yeah, will. Where are you from? Yo. Okay. Hola. You lost?
I think I was lying.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. 1 second.
All right.
Can you see this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We it was about mentions, fine mentions, tactical.
Fine, fine mansions with all their furnishings.
What is fine mentions?
Mansion is like a big house.
It's about house.
Yeah.
Mansions, yeah. Like
Mansions.
residence, like this mansions. And we finished here. Wonderful flower and useful qualities of food and drink and tactile pleasures.
Tactile
The-
pressures.
Tactile. Tactile pleasures. These are,
These
after
are,
all,
after all, our most as our most outward emotional responses. Physical responses arising out of inward responses are noted. As noted, inward responses which are alive all derive their appeal from goodness and goodness and truth derive theirs from charity and faith, and beyond that from the Lord, so that they derive it from life itself. As a result, emotional responses and the lower pleasures and come from them are alive. And since true pleasure springs from this, so
Shorts.
source, it is never denied to anyone. In fact, when it springs from there, the thrill it offers outstrips by far any thrill that does not.
Fascinate.
Wait.
thrill. I forgot what is thrill. Do you remember?
Yeah, excitement.
What? Yeah.
Thrill.
Thrill. Sharp sensation.
Okay, where am I? Outstrips
We,
by far any thrill that does not originate there. The other kind of delight is dirty by comparison. Take, for example, the sensual pleasures connected with love in marriage. When those pleasures rise out of true marriage love, they surpass immeasurable any pleasure that does not. So superior are they that people who have true marriage love are virtually in the blissful elation of heaven,
mhm.
since it comes
Um,
down to them
El-
from
Elation, like
elation.
what is above, yeah, yeah,
Elation.
like
Fascinate.
delight, exaltation. Euphoria.
Delight.
Euphoria.
Euphoria. Elation. It's like delight, maybe. Excitement.
Excitement.
Mhm.
Okay. Elation of heaven, since it comes down to them from heaven. The people who belong to the earliest church testify to this. The delight an adulterer feels in adultery was so loathsome to them that merely thinking about it made their hair stand to end. From this, we can draw conclusions about the nature of any pleasure that does not flow from the true fountain of life, the Lord. Again, the pleasures mentioned above are never denied to us. So far are they from being denied to us that they do not even begin to feel good until we obtain them from their true origin. Further corroboration for this fact is the consideration that many people who enjoyed power, importance, and wealth during their earthly lives and abundant gratifications of all kinds, both personal and sensory, are among the blessed and happy in heaven. Deeper joys and a deeper happiness are now alive in them. Because these feelings originated in the good impulses of neighborly love and in true ideas consti-
Constituting. uh,
constituting consti-
Thing
Constituting.
constituting. Constituting.
Constituting.
constituting
Constituting. It's like making, create, establish, constituting.
establish
Constituting.
constituting faith in the Lord, because the joy and happiness originated in charity and in faith in the Lord. Such people viewed all their lower pleasures in terms of usefulness, since usefulness was their goal. The usefulness itself was intensely exhilar- exhilarating to them
Okay.
and exhilarate
Exhilarating. Exhilarating.
Exhilarating.
Exhilarating.
Exhilarating.
exhilarating.
It's
Exhilarating.
without H. H is not reading.
It's like
Exhilarating.
exhilarating, right?
No, Z. The C transcription. Exhilarating.
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 Yeah, Mm-hmm.
Okay. Exhilarating.
Exhilarating, like exciting.
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 Exhilarating.
Mhm. Exhilarating to them and
And
was
was
what
what made their lower pleasures enjoyable. See the lesson of experience in 945. Okay. The symbolism of a plant as the humblest kinds of pleasure is established by the excitement above. Statements
take.
above. Sorry. Those kinds. Sorry. Those kinds of pleasure are called green plants because they are nothing more than worldly and physical kinds, superficial kinds. As I said, the pleasure we feel in our bodies or on the surface of existence traces its source back to increasingly deeper levels of enjoyment. The pleasures felt on their surface or in one's body are relatively inferior. All agreeable sensation in such that the shallower it grows, the poorer it is, while the deeper it grows, the more blissful it is. It is. So to repeat, as the external layers are unwrapped or peeled off, the elation grows sweeter, more blissful. This is
Field.
peeled like um peeled off,
Peeled.
Cleansed.
Cleansed.
wash.
Washed. Peeled off. And this word is relatively or relatively?
Relatively, it's like connection with
Relatively.
Relatively. Relatively.
relative.
I thought it's like relatively, but it's relatively.
Relatively.
Relatively. Yeah.
Relative.
Yeah, you read correctly. Yeah, I thought it's maybe relatively, but it's relatively. Yeah, relatively.
Relatively.
Okay.
More blissful. Blissful. I forgot this word. Blissful.
Blissful.
It's like happy. Happy state like this. Blissful. Blessed, for example, to be blessed. Blessedness. This is sufficiently. Sufficiently. What is this? Sufficiently.
Sufficiently.
Sufficiently. Like quite
Adequately.
adequately. Yeah.
Adequately.
Adequately. Sufficiently.
Sufficiently apparent from the fact that our enjoyment of the lower pleasures during our physical lives is quite paltry. Is
What
it
is this?
paltry or
Poultry.
poultry? Paltry, paltry.
Poultry.
Poultry.
Yeah, paltry.
Poultry.
It's
Poultry.
like miserable too, and small like this.
Small,
Meager.
cheap.
And this word
Scanty.
scanty. Quite paltry.
Quite paltry. Compared to the sensations we enjoy afterward. Okay. When we enter the world of spirits, it is so inferior. In fact, that good spirits absolutely scorn the creature comforts of the body and would refuse to return to them even if given all the pleasure in the whole world. The pleasure this spirits enjoy loses.
What is,
Inf-
what is this?
inferior is like
Mm.
uh
Inferior.
Inferior, like lower, worst, bad, defective. Inferior.
Defective.
Defective like this. It is so inferior, in fact. But in this sense, it is so inferior in fact. I think it's about like worst,
yes,
bad.
bad.
Maybe I can check it out. Fact. Maybe it's like figure of speech, like parable. Yeah, it's like it's about bad. It is so inferior in fact, like bad in fact. In turn loses its luster. What is its luster?
Luster.
Luster.
Chandelier.
It's like splendor.
Splendor.
Gloss and gloss.
Gloss.
Gloss like this splendor.
Okay. It's a luster when the Lord lifts them into heaven of angelic spirits, because they then shed those deeper delights and dawn ones still deeper. The exhilaration that angelic spirits felt in their heaven likewise pales when the Lord raises them into the angelic or third heaven. In this heaven, where inner qualities are alive and mutual love reigns supreme, the happiness is indescribable. Or
Describable.
describable, yeah. For more inner pleasure or happiness, see the account.
Fails. Wise.
Wise,
Oh, like
likewise,
wise. Like wise
fails.
fails. What is this fails? Ah,
Fails.
I knew, but it's like, yeah, it's like dim fails. Turn pale.
Turn pale.
Mm-hmm. Like wise fails. And this word, what is this? Exhilaration.
Exhilaration. Exhilaration.
What, do you remember what it means?
Um, it's like
Oh,
excitement, I think.
yeah, excitement. Yeah,
Yeah.
Exhilaration.
exhilaration. Yeah, we read this word recently.
Yes.
But I
Exhilaration.
forgot. Excitement, like joy,
Joyful
exhilaration.
mood. Yes.
Feedback count,
Exhilaration.
exhilaration.
From from experience in 545. This shows the meaning of I have given it all to you as I gave you the green plants. Since creeping things, they, since creeping things symbolize both personal pleasures and the pleasures of the senses, and these are being described as green plants. The original language has a word that means both plants and greenery. Plants refers to earthly pleasures stemming from matters of feel or from heavenly kinds of feelings.
Plants and greenery. Greenery like plants too, yeah?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Greenery.
Yeah, greenery. It's like vegetation. Mm-hmm.
green area.
Mm.
Verdure.
Verdure. Verdure.
Verdure.
It's like synonym by verdure.
Verdure.
It's like greenery, vegetation, and shoots. Shoots. Mm-hmm. Greenery.
While greenery refers to those stemming from matters of understanding or from spiritual feelings, the symbolism of green plants or grass as something lowly can be seen in the word, as for instance in Isaiah. The waters of Nimrim will be wastelands because the grain has dried out, the grass has been consumed. Greenery does not
Oh,
exist.
it's consumed.
Con- consume,
Consumed.
Mm-hmm. Consumed.
consume.
Consumed. It's like used. Mm-hmm.
Used,
Used.
yeah.
Eat. It's like eating. Eat it. Eat it.
You already
Devoured.
cons- consume.
Consumed.
Consume.
For example, you can say, my cat consumed the fish. Consumed. Like eaten. Ate, eat, eaten. My cat has eaten the fish. Like this. Consumed.
In the same order.
Ate. Maybe ate. My cat ate the fish and my cat consumed the fish. Like this.
Mhm. In the same order, their residents, their hand shortened, have felt panic and shame. They have become field grass and grain plants, hay on the roofs. Grain plants stands for what is humblest in Moses. The land that you enter to possess it is not like the land of Egypt, which you came out from, where you would sow your seed and irrigate it by foot like vegetable garden. The vegetable garden stands for something humble in David. The evil are suddenly cut down like grain and are consumed like green plants. The grain and the green plant stands for what is humblest.
Let's see. Is it a lot to read? Yeah, maybe I can read. I can continue. Yeah,
Okay.
because it was a lot. Hmm. Uh, all of it given to you means enjoying it because it is useful, which is the same as receiving it as food, since anything given as food is given for a useful purpose. As far as usefulness is concerned, the case is this: people who have charity inside, that is, love for their neighbor, which is the source of any living kind of appeal in the lower pleasures. Kind of appeal.
Appeal.
It's like proclamation, call, appeal. Mhm. Look at the enjoyment of pleasure solely in terms of its usefulness. Charity, after all, is nothing without the work of charity. Charity consists in doing, in being useful. In other words, if we love our neighbor as ourselves, we do not feel any delight in charity unless we are being active or useful. As a consequence, the life is charity. The life of charity is a life of usefulness. This is the life found throughout heaven, because the Lord's kingdom, since it is a realm of mutual love, is a realm of useful activity. Accordingly, all the gratification that charity offers acquires its appeal from usefulness. The more marked the usefulness, the greater the appeal. That is why the essential nature and quality of an angel's occupation determines the kind of happiness the Lord gives him or her. The situation is the same with all lower pleasures. The more marked their usefulness, the greater their appeal. Take for a single example the
Blazer?
Sorry, what? What
What
do you say?
Blazer he's talking about?
Pleasure. Pleasure
Blazer.
like pleasure.
Which
I don't.
Blazer?
Pleasures, yeah. All lower pleasures.
What? Which one?
This word, yeah.
Pleasures.
Yeah.
Pleasures. It's
Yeah, but
pleasures.
which Blazer, bro?
Which a lot. He was. Mm, it's like happiness. The situation is the same with all lower pleasures.
Nah, like
Maybe he will
there
explain
are
later.
different. There are like different kind of Blazers.
Yeah, like tactile pleasures and taste, pleasures of taste, like
And
pleasures
other
of
ones.
smelling, like
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
got you, bro.
pleasures. hmm The more marked their usefulness, the greater their appeal. Take for a single example the pleasure that married love entails. Yeah, you see, it's about, he describes the married love, the pleasure of married love, because this pleasure provides the breeding ground for human society, and through it for the Lord's realm in the heavens. And because this is the most important function there is, it holds within it such ecstasy that it is, as they say, heavenly bliss. Circumstances are similar for all other kinds of gratification, with variations due to the importance of the service they perform. Those services are so richly varied that it would be hard to break them down into their major and minor categories. Minor, like little.
Minor.
Minor. Major and minor categories. They all look toward the Lord's kingdom, that is, to the Lord, some more closely and directly and directly. Closely and directly.
Directly.
Directly. Closely and directly, and others more distantly and indirectly. This again leads to the conclusion that all kinds of lower pleasures are granted to us, but only for the sake of their use, and that is a result because of the use they perform, each in its own way is brimming and alive. What is brimming?
Brimming.
Brimming, like abundant, filling. Is brimming and alive with heaven's happiness. Genesis 9:4. Only flesh. Only flesh in its soul you must not eat. Its blood you must not eat. Flesh symbolizes human volition. The soul symbolizes new life. Blood symbolizes neighborly love. Not eating symbolizes not mingling.
Mingling.
Mingling, like mixing. Not mingling. So not eating flesh in its soul, not eating fat is not mingling profane things with holy. The symbolism of flesh as human volition is established by the symbolism of flesh in its proper sense, having to do with our deprived self. In the word flesh symbolizes all people in general and those in particular who are oriented toward their bodies. See the early demonstration of this in since flesh symbolizes all people and particularly body-oriented ones, it also symbolizes selfhood and consequently volition. Our volition or will is nothing but evil. This being so, when the term flesh refers to people, it symbolizes every craving or all greed. Our will consists wholly of cravings, as shown several times already. Since this is what flesh symbolizes, the same thing was represented by the flesh that the people craved in the wilderness, described by Moses in these words. The rabble that was in their midst had a strong craving, so they wept again and said, "Who will feed us flesh?" Rabble.
Rabble.
Rabble, like punk, crowd. Clearly, flesh is being called craving, since it says they had a strong craving. Who will feed us flesh? The words that follow these also illustrate the meaning. The flesh was still between the teeth before it was shredded, and Jehovah's anger blazed out against the people, and Jehovah struck a very strong blow among the people. Strong blow.
Blow.
Blow. Blow. It's like fun. Mhm. among the people, and he called the name of that place the graves of greed, because graves.
Graves.
Graves is like tomb. I knew it. The graves of greed, because there they buried the people who had a greedy craving. Anyone can see that such a blow or plague, plague,
Plague.
plague, plague, pestilence, or plague would never have been brought on the people just because they craved the flesh. It was not their longing for meat that was to blame. Such a longing is only natural when people used to eating meat are deprived of it for a long time, as was then true for the people in the wilderness. The real reason, a spiritual one, ran deeper. The people were such that they felt utter disgust for what the manna symbolized and represented, as verse 6 of the chapter, Numbers 11, also shows, and they longed only for the kind of things that flesh symbolized and represented. Those things are the self-centered impulses, 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 impulses,
Impulses.
impulses, self-centered impulses of the will, the stirrings of greed, stirrings.
Stirrings.
It's like mixing. The stirrings of greed, which in themselves resemble dung and are inherently profane. It was because the church was a representative one as a consequence of such representations that a plague of these proportions was inflicted on the people. The events that took place among them, you see, were represented in a spiritual way in heaven, where manna represented what is heavenly. Stirrings of greed, okay. And the flesh of the people, craved, represented a sordid urge of the will. Sordid,
Sordid.
disgusting. Sordid urge of the will. Sordid urge of the will. The result, because they were the kind of people described, was punishment. These and other places in the word demonstrate that flesh symbolizes the will, in this case, human will. Review the discussion on concerning the beast of the earth at verse 2 of this chapter to see how unclean that will is. Is it a lot? Yeah, maybe someone wants to continue from 1000 section.
Okay, I read.
Go ahead.
Where is it? 1000.
Yeah, 1000.
The symbolism of soul as life is established by the symbolism of the soul in many passages of the word. In the word, soul in general symbolizes all life, both inward life or that of the inner self, and outward life or that of the outer self. Since it symbolizes all life, it also symbolizes the specific kind of life possessed by the people to whom it is attributed. Here it is used in connection with the life that a regenerate person has, which is separate from the person's will, As noted earlier, the new life that a spiritual person who has been reborn receives from the Lord is completely separate from the human will or human aut- autonomy. That is to say, it is completely separate from the person's own life, which is not life, although that is what it is called, but death, because it is the life of hell. So in the present verse, the flesh in its soul that they were not to eat means a flesh together with its soul, with with its
Oh.
soul.
Mhm.
That is, they were not to mingle. They were not to mingle this new life, which is the Lord's, with the evil, unsavory life that is a human being's. That is a human beings. In other words, they were not to mingle the new life with human will or human self. There is a great deal of evidence for the symbolism of blood as neighborly love. As a result, blood symbolizes a new war, will.
Will.
Symbolizes a new will that the spiritual person who has been reborn receives from the Lord. This new will is the same thing as neighborly love because the new will is form of that love. Charity love is the vital essence itself of the will or the life of the will. The only possible reason for saying we will something is that we favor or love it. We might say we think something, but that is not the same as willing it, unless the will lies behind the thought. This new will, which is neighborly love, is the blood. The new will is not ours, but is the Lord's in us. And since it is the Lord's, it must never be mixed together with the promptings of our own will, which gain are quite foul. That is why the representative church had this prescription against eating flesh in its soul, that is, in its blood, meaning that people were not to mix the two together.
Prescription.
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 It's like prohibition.
Mhm.
Prohibition.
It's like ban.
Prohibition.
Prohibition.
Prohibition. Prescription. Prescription like a ban too. And promptings.
Promptings.
Promptings like motive. Motive. Promptings. Guidance.
Because blood symbolized charity, it symbolized what was holy, and because flesh symbolized human will, it symbolized what was profane. Since the two, being opposite, are separate, people were forbidden to eat blood. The reason was that eating of flesh together with blood in those days presented to heaven a picture of profanation or the intermingling of something sacred and something profane. Such a picture could
Intermingling.
Intermingling.
What is this?
What is that?
Intermingling.
Intermingling.
interming-
Mhm.
intermingling.
What does that mean?
Communicate and it's like mingle to. But
Mangoes.
in this sense, blood in those days presented to heaven a picture of profanation or the intermingling of something sacred. Yeah,
It's
sacred
a
and
communication
profane.
something. Yeah. It's communicate something. Okay.
It's like mixed. There,
Okay.
intermingling.
I see.
Such a picture
could not help striking the angels of the time with horror. In those days, everything that was happening among members of the church was being turned into a corresponding spiritual representation among the angels, uh, in accord with its inner sense symbolism. Since meanings always depend on the individual they apply to, so thus the symbolism of blood. In relation to a regenerate spiritual person, blood symbolizes charity or love for one's neighbor. In relation to a regenerate person of heavenly character, it symbolizes love for the Lord. In relation to the Lord, however, it symbolizes his core human essence and therefore love itself. That is, his mercy toward the human race. Since blood then symbolizes love and anything connected with love, in general it symbolizes heavenly traits, which are the Lord's alone. So, in relation to humans, it symbolizes heavenly qualities that we receive from the Lord. The heavenly qualities that a regenerate spiritual person receives from the Lord are heavenly spiritual ones, discussed elsewhere by the Lord's divine mercy. This fact that blood symbolizes heavenly qualities and that in the highest sense it symbolizes the Lord's core, human essence, and so love itself, or his mercy toward the human race can be seen from the holiness that the representative Jewish religion was commanded to accord blood. On that account, it was called the blood of the covenant and was spattered.
Mm-hmm. Sputtered.
Spattered.
It's like sprinkled, I think. Sputtered. Dispersed.
Spattered.
Mm-hmm. It's like spray. Mm-hmm. Sprinkled.
Splash. Spray.
Mm-hmm. Sputtered.
Wasn't where spattered on the people, along with anointing oil. It was also spattered on Aaron and his sons, and the blood of every burnt offering and sacrifice was spattered on and around the altar. On these subjects,
What is commanded to accord blood? What is accord here in this sentence? Commanded to accord. Court, it's like commanded to accord.
Accord.
Agreement, accordance,
I
correspond.
think it's grant. Yeah, grant. Like because
Yeah.
Jewish religion was commanded to accord blood, to bring blood to God, like to grant it. Mm-hmm.
yes. Okay. The reason the eating of blood was so strictly forbidden was that blood was considered this holy and human will is this profane, and the practice represented the profanation of something holy. Moses says, for instance, it is an eternal what is it? Stay
Statute. Mm-hmm.
statute.
Statute.
Mm-hmm.
Statute.
Okay. Statute.
Statute. It's
Statute.
like code of laws, law.
It is.
Statute.
Mm.
Okay, statute. Throughout your region, throughout generations, Everywhere you live, you shall not eat any fat or any blood.
Oh.
Fat stands for heavenly life, and blood in this verse for heavenly spiritual life.
Oh.
A heavenly spiritual entity is something spiritual that develops out of something heavenly. For example, love for the Lord was the heavenly trait belonging to people. In the earliest church, because it was planted in their will, their heavenly spiritual possession was the faith that grew out of it, as described in with spiritual people. On the other hand, a heavenly attribute is not possible, since love for others is planted in their intellectual side. They can have only a heavenly spiritual dimension. In the same author, any from the house of Israel or from among the immigrants residing in your midst, who may have eaten any blood, I will set my face against the souls eating blood, and I will cut them off from the midst of their people, because the soul of the flesh is in the blood, that I have given it to you for use
Yes.
on the altar, to make atonement over your souls, because the blood itself must atone for the soul. The soul of all flesh is its blood. Everyone eating it will be cut off. This
Mm.
says explicitly that the soul of flesh is in the blood, and that the soul of flesh is the blood. The heavenly aspect, the sacred element, the Lord's possession, and the same author. Set yourself firmly against eating blood, because the blood itself is the soul, and you shall not eat the soul with the flesh. These verses again show that blood is being called the soul, that is heavenly life or a heavenly quality, as represented by the burnt offerings and sacrifices of that religion. The prohibit the prohibition in
Okay.
Exodus 23:18 and 34:25 against offering the blood of a sacrifice on top of yeast bread, or represented a ban on mingling
Mhm.
any heavenly aspect which belongs to the Lord, and only what belongs to him is heavenly and sacred, with any distinction, a distinctly human aspect, which is profane. Anything containing yeast symbolized what was corrupt and tainted. The reason,
Let's see. Yeah, how a lot it is. Okay.
how many?
Mhm. Six.
Other
From
ones to
from from 6. Yeah, maybe someone wants to continue because it's a lot. No, it's not a lot. We can read from Genesis 9:5. Maybe someone wants to finish today. Today.
shall I
Um.
continue?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
see, I
Go,
mean,
go on. Yeah.
others wants to read, I think. Scene, you want to
Uh.
read?
Oh. Okay. May I?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So let's start. So, the reason blood is called soul and symbolize the holiness of charity, the reason it represented the holiness of love in the Jewish religion is that it constitutes the life of the body. Since blood constitutes the life of the body, it is the body's outermost soul. So that we can call it the physical soul or the vehicle of our physical life. And since external objects represented inner attributes, the representative church blood represented the soul or heavenly life.
The symbolism of not eating as not mingling now follows. Regarded in itself, eating meat is a profane custom, since people of the very earliest time, is it time? Oh yeah, times. Earliest
Earliest
times
times. Mhm.
never ate the flesh of any animal or bird, but only grains, particularly when at bread, fruit, vegetables, different kinds of milk, and milk productions, such as butter. Butchering living creatures and eating the flesh was heinous in their eyes and characteristic of wild beast. It was only on account of the menial labor and the functions of animals performed for them that they captured any. This can be seen from Genesis 1:29 and 30, I guess. What is menial?
Manual
Menial.
manual labor.
What is that?
Menial.
Servants. It's a
Servant
verb.
like this.
Uh,
Servant
kind.
labor.
What is that? Hey Neos. What is that? Can you search the Hey
Yeah.
Neos?
Okay. Heinous.
Yeah.
Eating the flesh was heinous. Maybe like horrible anything. Let's see. Yeah.
Hey Neos.
Heinous.
Disgusting.
Heinous like
Disgusting.
Terrible. Okay.
disgusting.
Okay. All right. Heinous. Okay, so but when time passed and people turned as savage as wild animals, and in fact more savage, for the first time they started to butcher animals and eat the meat. In view of the fact that people were like this, the practice was also tolerated, and it still is today, to the extent that people follow it in good conscience. It is
Conscience.
conscience
Conscience.
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 consciousness. Oh,
Conscience.
conscience. Okay.
It's
Conscience.
like inner
Conscience.
voice. Human conscience, inner voice, like this.
Oh, consciousness. Okay. It is permissible because everything we consider true and consequently allowable forms our conscience. For this reason, no one these days is ever condemned for eating meat. This now shows that not eating flesh in its souls, not eating blood means not mingling profane things with holy. Eating blood with flesh never mingles profane things with holy, as the Lord also thought explicitly in Matthew. Okay,
Explicitly.
explicitly,
Explicitly. What is
explicitly.
this?
Yes. Okay. Clearly, in
Explicitly.
detail. Okay. Okay.
Clearly.
Yeah. In Matthew. It is not what goes into the mouth that renders a person unclean, but what comes out of the mouth. This renders a person unclean, since the things that come out of the mouth come out of the heart. Matthew 15:11. 17, 18, 19, 20. Still, it was forbidden in the Jewish religion, because, again, eating blood with the flesh at the time presented heaven with with the image of profanation. Everything that took place in that religion turned into a corresponding representation in heaven. Blood turned into something sacred and heavenly. Flesh, aside from sacrifices, turned into something profane because it symbolized cravings, as shown 999 in I don't know how to read that. And the actual eating of both turned into a mixing together of holiness and profanation. That is why it was strictly banned. After the Lord's coming through, when outward rituals were
Though it's coming though it's not
out.
through.
Oh yeah. Sorry. After the Lord's coming, though, when outward rituals were abolished, so that representative forms died out, such practices no longer turned into corresponding representations in heaven. When people developed death and depth and learn about inner dimensions, superficial things lose all value for them. They realize that what is truly holy, namely charity and the faith growing out of it, which provide them with a perspective on their outer dimension, or or the amount of charity and faith in the Lord they have outwardly. As a result, ever since the Lord's coming, heaven views us not in terms of outer but inner attributes. If angels do look at any of us on the basis of external considerations, it is due to a simplicity in us and to an innocence and kindness within the simplicity. This come from the Lord and reside within. Okay, reside within.
Simplicity. What is this?
Simplicity. It's
It's
simply,
like simple. Yeah.
yes, ease,
Simplicity.
modesty.
hmm
Mhm.
Modesty, simplicity. It's like from simple,
Yes.
innocence, maybe. hmm
Mhm. Our outward traits or our outward worship, although we are unaware of it. Genesis
hmm
9 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, thank you very much because
Oh,
I have to go and
okay,
this
bro.
reading is over to
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
we
you so much, bro.
we were reading a lot today. Yeah, and I hope I can see you tomorrow and we can
Okay.
continue the
Okay.
reading.
Okay.
hmm
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day,
Bye. See you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much.